Hello everyone. Before we dive into today's topic, we want to take a moment to thank you for your support. Every like, comment, and subscription truly makes a difference and helps this channel grow. If you enjoy our content and don't want to miss the upcoming videos, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive all notifications. A new frontier is silently taking shape above our heads, a transformation happening far from the traditional spotlight, yet one that could define the entire future of human presence in space. It's not the moon race of the 60s, nor the Mars fever of modern pioneers. It's something more subtle, yet infinitely more powerful: the privatization of Earth's orbit and the birth of the first generation of non-governmental space infrastructure. And its most tangible symbol is a 10-meter by 4 aluminum cylinder, with a pressurized core and finished like a designer suite. It's called Haven1, and it's destined to become the first commercial outpost in orbit. This isn't a distant dream or a sci-fi concept. Its primary structure will be completed by July 2025, with the launch scheduled for 2026 aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. It's a tangible industrial reality, with components already assembled and engineering teams working day and night between California and Texas. At the helm of the project is Vast Space, a startup that embodies the new entrepreneurial mindset of space: ambitious, fast, bold. The core idea is as simple as it is revolutionary: to build a private space habitat, an orbital lab that can host 4 people for missions of around 30 days, with everything needed to live, work, and, in part, dream. But Haven1 is not just a functional capsule. It's also designed to be beautiful. Its interiors include soundproof private quarters, reconstituted wood surfaces, lighting systems designed to respect circadian rhythms, and a large panoramic window to observe Earth. For the first time in history, human comfort becomes an integral part of engineering design in orbit. No longer just survival, but livability. And this shift carries enormous significance. Beyond the allure of space luxury, Haven1 is above all a scientific platform. Inside the module, payloads will be installed for microgravity experiments, reactors for 3D printing advanced materials, facilities for studying extraterrestrial crops and biotechnologies. Each mission will be able to carry dozens of kilograms of equipment. This means that low Earth orbit will no longer be the exclusive domain of major space agencies, but also of universities, laboratories, and soon, industries. The change is not just structural but systemic. Thanks to agreements with NASA, Haven1 uses life support technologies developed with decades of human spaceflight experience. In return, NASA can conduct experiments aboard the station, contributing to the development of future missions to the Moon and Mars. This public-private collaboration marks a new geopolitical balance. Space dominance is no longer monolithic, but modular, flexible, and increasingly accessible. Yet, Haven1 is only half the story. While this outpost takes shape in orbit, another front is opening up on the lunar surface. And once again, it's the private sector leading the charge. It's called CLPS, an acronym for Commercial Lunar Payload Services, the program through which NASA entrusts small and medium-sized companies with the task of exploring the Moon with robotic landers. The goal is clear: to build a stable scientific presence, test technologies, map resources, and pave the way for Artemis missions. But the way this is happening is unprecedented. Instead of designing every detail in-house, NASA becomes a client of a new generation of space providers. In March 2025, a small lander called Blue Ghost landed in Mare Crisium. Built by Firefly Aerospace, it became the first private lunar vehicle to touch down without tipping over, operating for about 2 weeks and conducting 10 experiments. It collected data on soil composition, radiation, signal transmissibility, and even tested a mini regolith collection system. But it wasn't just an engineering success. It was the first tile in a commercial lunar network. A few days later, another mission reached the surface. the IM-2 Athena lander, built by Intuitive Machines. It landed in the polar region of Mons Mouton, encountered some difficulties, but still carried a cryogenic drill and a neutron generator to study the presence of subsurface ice. The experiment didn't fully succeed, but the endeavor demonstrated that even companies with a fraction of NASA's budget can conduct real lunar missions. These missions, along with others on the horizon, form a fascinating mosaic. The lunar landscape is no longer silent and uninhabited. It's now a stage for a race among startups, industrial consortia, and space agencies. A new kind of exploration, where entrepreneurial daring meets scientific necessity, creating an ecosystem in which both failures and successes are valuable. And while these probes and landers dig, measure, observe, an idea becomes increasingly clear. Space is no longer just a goal to reach. It is becoming an environment to inhabit. Not in the future, not decades from now. Now. In this new scenario, every orbital module, every lunar lander, every small robotic mission is no longer just a technical endeavor, but a piece of a larger mosaic. The expansion of the human domain beyond the boundaries of the planet. It's no longer about planting a flag or winning a geopolitical race. It's about building infrastructure, establishing continuity, making space livable and, above all, economically sustainable. And that word, sustainability, is the hidden key to it all. Because no civilization can expand into the cosmos relying on billion-dollar missions every 10 years. What's needed is routine, repetition, efficiency. We need the ability to have a lab in orbit that we can return to regularly, like with Haven1. We need to send equipment to the moon at lower costs, accepting the risk of failure but also the speed of improvement, as is happening with CLPS. The result is a new geography of space. In low Earth orbit, modular stations and reusable vehicles rotate like ferries in an orbital port. Around the moon, small landers and rovers are preparing the ground for future habitats, tracing the first coordinates of a human map of our satellite. And all this is happening not by state decree, but by private initiative, with business models, contracts, partnerships, even marketing. Yet we must not be deceived by the apparent coldness of economic logic. There is something deeply human in this process. There is the idea, as old as thought itself, that the unknown should not only be observed but lived. That the vastness of the cosmos is not a limit but an invitation. Private stations, lunar landers, 3D printers in microgravity, and hydroponic crops on alien soil. All of this is not just technological progress. It is an extension of imagination. And with every module launched, with every successful or failed landing, we learn something more. We discover that the human body can adapt better to microgravity than we thought, that materials can be produced with unique properties only in space, that the moon still holds geological secrets despite decades of observation. Every new piece of information feeds a virtuous cycle. The more we know, the more we can do. The more we do, the more we want to discover. Now imagine what will happen when Haven1 is no longer alone. Vast space plans additional modules, interconnected, expandable. Other companies are developing similar habitats, Axiom Space, Blue Origin, even European startups. Low Earth orbit will become an archipelago of laboratories and stations, with regular routes, orbital traffic, and perhaps even condominium rules to manage coexistence. Meanwhile, on the moon, CLPS landers will be followed by larger cargo modules, miniaturized reactors, and rovers capable of building infrastructure. The water ice detected in the perpetually shadowed craters could be extracted, separated, transformed into oxygen and fuel. And once this process is automated, we can truly speak of an autonomous colony. It's a scenario that until a few years ago seemed impossible. But now there are concrete projects, budgets, schedules. There are signed contracts, scheduled launches, modules already under construction. There are orbiting rooms with wooden walls and lunar drills digging for water. There is a generation of engineers, biologists, architects, and dreamers who are, literally, building the future. And in this future, every human being may one day look to the sky not just with wonder and distance, but with the awareness that out there are places created by human hands, habitable, operational. Places that exist because someone believed that space could become home. Because in the end, what we are doing is not just colonizing space. We are reimagining what it means to inhabit the universe. And the first bricks of this new civilization are already in orbit, ready to host the dreams and ambitions of our species. All that remains is to look up and start building.